You close your eyes and let your mind descend beneath the familiar surface of the world. The gentle rustle of leaves, the whisper of a distant stream, the soft sway of the grass. They all fade as you sink deeper, through soil, rock, and the hidden layers of earth. Beneath your feet, a world of quiet motion thrives, unnoticed yet relentless. Here, time flows differently, measured not in days or years, but in millennia, in the slow dance of molten rock and shifting stone. The crust above you seems solid, unyielding, yet it is but a thin shell, a delicate lid on a simmering interior. Beneath it, the mantle moves with patient insistence, a viscous river of heat and pressure flowing over unimaginable spans of time. You imagine currents of magma stretching across hundreds of kilometers, undulating in silent, slow waves, shaping mountains and valleys, nurturing the planet's very form. As you drift through this hidden world, the Earth's heartbeat becomes perceptible. It is steady and deep, not the sharp pulse of a sudden tremor, but the persistent rhythm of a planet alive. You feel a quiet kinship with these forces. Each shift of rock, each movement of molten material, mirrors a subtle part of your own being, connecting you to a cycle of creation and transformation that has persisted long before your time. Tectonic plates drift with a patience that seems almost impossible to grasp. They collide in gentle yet unstoppable pressure, forcing mountains upward, carving valleys, sculpting coastlines. Earthquakes, those rare murmurs of sudden release, are but fleeting moments in the grand symphony of the planet's internal life. Volcanic eruptions, though dramatic, are the exhalations of processes that have been simmering for millions of years, reminding you that beneath the calm, enormous power quietly accumulates. You notice the textures of this deep world. Minerals crystallize slowly as magma cools, each formation a record of heat, pressure, and time. Veins of sparkling quartz, flecks of metallic, or bands of layered rock. They speak in silence, telling stories of conditions long past, of transformations so slow that only the patient observer could perceive them. Water moves here too, trapped in pockets, dissolving, reshaping, softening stone in invisible ways. Even in the Earth's depths, fluidity persists, weaving subtle threads of change. In the very center of the planet, the core spins and convects, a dense sphere of iron and nickel generating the magnetic field that shields life above. You sense its quiet presence, the invisible guardian of every breath, every heartbeat, every life that thrives on the surface. The magnetic whispers flow outward, a protective hum that connects living beings to the Earth's inner workings. In this moment, you realize that the hidden world is not separate from you. It flows through and around your life in ways almost imperceptible, yet essential. The Earth's interior is also a story of balance. Heat moves upward while the surface radiates energy outward. Pressure builds, and in its release, landscapes are reshaped. Mountains rise and erode, rivers carve deep valleys, and the surface responds to the slow, patient hands of processes occurring far below. You sense the rhythm. Accumulation and release, creation and transformation, all unfolding without hurry, without noise, in a steady cadence that echoes through time. You imagine walking along a subterranean ridge where tectonic plates meet. Here, the crust is under tension, bending and fracturing in response to forces that are invisible yet undeniable. Deep beneath, magma nudges through cracks, pressing upward, patient and persistent. It may lie dormant for centuries, yet when it finally moves, it reshapes the surface with astonishing drama. You feel awe at the scale of this patience, at the way immense energy can remain invisible, threatening yet gentle, waiting for its quiet moment to manifest. Even as you drift, the Earth tells its subtle stories through sound and vibration. Seismic waves ripple outward from shifting rock, carrying information about layers, densities, and hidden boundaries. You imagine seismologists interpreting these whispers, each tremor a letter in the planet's slow epistolary narrative. You sense the deep Earth's voice, a language not of words but of motion and energy, patient and persistent, shaping the world with deliberate grace. Time here is expansive. Millions of years collapse into a single thought. Magma pools rise and fall, mountains are pushed skyward and eroded again, oceans shift gently, and yet the planet endures. You feel connected to this enduring rhythm, a calm awareness of life and matter intertwined. The Earth's internal heartbeat matches the quiet of your own breathing, linking your awareness to a scale of existence far beyond human concern. You notice how the surface responds to these hidden motions. Volcanoes sculpt islands and enrich soils. Earthquakes subtly change landscapes, and even the wind and water above follow the contours carved over eons. Every tree, every river, every living being depends on the balance maintained by these unseen processes. You realize that beneath the calm, a network of quiet, immense activity supports everything you see, sustaining life through cycles of heat, pressure, and time. Finally, your attention drifts upward from the depths toward the surface. The familiar world returns, the trees, the soil, the whispering wind, but now you carry a sense of connection. The earth beneath you is not inert. It breathes, it flows, it persists. You have glimpsed the hidden heart, the patient power that underpins life, the quiet strength that will continue long after today fades. As your awareness begins to rise fully to the surface, you feel a gentle pull toward the sky. Beneath your feet, the planet hums softly, a steady, patient rhythm. Above, the world stretches into the unknown, and you wonder how the forces beneath might echo the forces beyond, linking the hidden depths of Earth to the vastness of space. You stand quietly at the edge of a vast caldera, the world around you hushed, as if nature itself has drawn a long, soft breath. Beneath your feet lies a giant, a sleeping behemoth whose presence you can sense even without seeing it. The ground feels ordinary, familiar, a path for your steps, yet you know that underneath, immense forces slumber, stretching across miles of rock and molten rivers. This is no ordinary volcano. It is a supervolcano, a titan of geological time, sculpted by fire and patience over millions of years. As you begin your journey downward in thought, you imagine the layers of Earth, each one heavier than the last, pressing patiently, inexorably, shaping the world above. The crust feels deceptively solid, yet beneath its seeming stability flows the heat of creation itself. You trace the hidden chambers in your mind, picturing molten rock flowing like thick, slow rivers through unseen tunnels. These currents are ancient, moving with quiet persistence, reshaping the world beneath without urgency, without fanfare. You sense their warmth, not with touch, but with imagination, feeling the heat radiate through stone and time. You pause to consider the scale. Mountains and valleys, forests and plains, all appear small compared to the vast chambers below. Each cavern, each reservoir of magma, stretches across miles, defying the limits of daily human understanding. It is humbling, this enormity, reminding you of the vastness of the natural world. You imagine yourself shrinking in size, becoming a silent observer of this underground architecture, walking along molten rivers as slowly as they flow. The experience fills you with both awe and gentle respect, a quiet acknowledgement of forces that move on timescales far beyond your own. Your mind wanders through the chambers, noticing details that could not be seen in daylight. Crystalline walls gleam with minerals formed under immense pressure, their surfaces etched with the history of the Earth itself. You imagine the heat radiating from the rock, warm enough to bend stone slowly, to melt metals if they could endure such intensity. In this imagined descent, you witness the interplay of forces. Gravity pressing downward, heat rising, pressure holding it all in delicate balance. Each factor combines to create a structure that is both stable and restless, waiting and moving all at once. You reflect on the rivers of molten rock that flow through these chambers. They move slowly, almost imperceptibly, winding their way through hidden valleys carved by time itself. You see them as veins, carrying the lifeblood of the supervolcano, channels of energy that might one day awaken in spectacular display. Yet for now, they move with patience, unseen but persistent. You feel a connection to their quiet power, a reminder that strength does not always announce itself with noise. Even in stillness, energy can be immense, reshaping landscapes in silence. As you drift along these molten paths, Your imagination lets you observe the chemical dances that occur within the magma. Elements mingle, crystals form and dissolve, gases bubble upward slowly, seeking release. It is a delicate, invisible choreography, conducted without haste, yet capable of monumental change. You think of these processes as a hidden orchestra, playing a symphony beneath the mountains and valleys. Each note is a reaction, each movement a shift in the structure of the earth itself. In this subterranean concert, you are both listener and witness, attuned to rhythms far older than human history. The weight of the overlying rock presses on you in thought. You feel the compression, the force of millions of tons bearing down, shaping every chamber and passage. Rocks bend imperceptibly under the pressure, slowly, until even the hardest stones adapt to the strain. You sense the patience required for such transformations, the deep time necessary for mountains to rise and valleys to sink. Every layer above and below works together, a testament to the quiet intelligence of natural processes. You are reminded that permanence is an illusion. Everything is in flux, yet the changes unfold with gentle inevitability. In this imagined descent, you notice how interconnected it all is. A shift in one chamber might ripple across the network, affecting currents far away. Tiny movements, invisible to the eye, can influence vast regions over centuries. You think of the Earth as a living system, immense yet delicate, each part supporting the whole in ways both subtle and profound. Your awareness stretches to match the scale, and you feel a soft humility in response, a recognition of your place within a much larger story. Your attention drifts to the surface again, where life continues unaware of the forces beneath. Trees sway in the wind, rivers meander, birds call softly in the distance. You see humanity moving along paths, building homes and cities atop this sleeping giant. There is wonder in this coexistence, in the fact that life thrives even above such potential power. The supervolcano sleeps, yet it teaches patience, respect, and the quiet beauty of things beyond immediate perception. You imagine yourself walking above the chambers now, carrying the knowledge of their existence in gentle reverence. You linger on the thought of energy stored over eons, waiting in slow currents and hidden pools. It is not violent energy in this moment, but a calm, restrained force, ready to remind the world of its scale when the time comes. In your imagination, you feel it as a heartbeat beneath the earth, steady, unhurried, and immense. You sense how small human concerns are in comparison, yet also how uniquely capable your mind is of understanding and appreciating such wonders. You carry both humility and curiosity, a balance taught by the slow movements of stone and fire. As you begin to rise in thought from the depths, you take one last look at the chambers, the molten rivers, the pressure and heat, and the hidden architecture that supports the mountains above. You feel the enormity of time itself, the patient shaping of the earth, and the quiet power that has rested for millennia. This journey into the heart of a supervolcano leaves you with a sense of awe, a gentle respect, and a lingering curiosity about the processes that sculpt worlds. The giant remains beneath your feet, silent yet alive, a reminder that the Earth's most profound stories are often hidden from view, waiting for those who are willing to imagine, to descend in thought, and to listen with patience. And as you breathe slowly, letting your mind drift among these ancient chambers, you carry with you the calm knowledge that beneath every hill, every valley, lies a world more vast, more intricate, and more patient than you could ever witness directly, inviting reflection on the quiet mysteries yet to be discovered. You move across the terrain with a careful awareness, noticing that even the smallest vibrations carry meaning. The soil shifts beneath your feet in almost imperceptible ways, as if the earth were stretching quietly, awakening from a long rest. These gentle movements are subtle signals, signs of stirring deep within the crust. Each microquake, each faint rumble, is a message from a hidden world, whispering about energy building slowly, patiently, over centuries. You feel yourself aligning with its rhythm, attentive to the delicate pulse that connects mountains, valleys, and rivers in a silent, continuous dialogue. Rising gases appear as faint wisps, curling upward from narrow fissures or hidden vents. You watch them drift, observing their delicate dance against the backdrop of rock and sky. Carbon dioxide, water vapor, and traces of sulfur escape slowly, carrying with them the faint histories of underground processes. These gases are more than chemical signatures. They are the breaths of the planet, rising after long periods of quiet. You inhale their presence metaphorically, letting your mind trace the paths of heat and pressure that have guided them to the surface. Each curl of vapor is a note in a symphony written in slow motion, a melody of forces hidden beneath your feet. The land itself responds to this subtle activity. Hills seem to swell imperceptibly, ridges shift, and valleys deepen with an almost deliberate patience. You walk along the contours of the earth, noticing how the crust accommodates pressure with gentle adjustments. Streams follow slightly altered courses, tracing new paths in response to shifting slopes. Stones and sediment realign in small gestures, illustrating the slow negotiation between force and resistance. You imagine the immense energy stored beneath the surface, a tension that is at once invisible and palpable, ready to be expressed in forms both sudden and gradual. Beneath the surface, magma moves in quiet currents, unseen yet persistent. These reservoirs of molten rock expand and contract, flowing in patterns dictated by temperature, density, and the subtle pull of gravity. You picture these slow movements like the beating of a hidden heart, sending tremors and warmth outward in invisible waves. The Earth's interior is alive with these motions, patient and deliberate, shaping landscapes and influencing every eruption, every landslide, and every new formation. You sense the continuity of these processes, the way each small adjustment adds to the long story of the planet's evolution. As you observe, you notice that the tiniest shifts in the ground create resonance throughout the surrounding area. Rocks rub against one another, producing faint vibrations that spread like whispered conversations. You feel these subtle signals in your feet and legs, a physical connection to the vast network of forces operating just beneath the surface. Each vibration carries information about the Earth's inner workings, and you learn to interpret them not as threats, but as communication. A language written in pressure, heat, and motion, demanding only patience and attention to understand. The atmosphere above the stirring land responds in its own way. Rising gases meet cool air, forming clouds that hover briefly before dissolving. These clouds catch the sunlight and scatter it in gentle, shifting patterns across hills and valleys. You watch as shadows move with the changes, and you feel the quiet feedback loop between the surface and the sky. Even the wind seems to whisper hints of the ongoing transformations, brushing over trembling ridges and unsettled slopes. You sense the interconnectedness of air, rock, and water, a subtle choreography that unfolds with no hurry yet profound effect. Streams and rivers adapt with quiet patience, shifting their courses as the land subtly changes beneath them. They respond to tilts, swelling in some areas, narrowing in others. Sediments shift with their flow, altering the texture of riverbeds, hinting at the dynamic processes beneath. You trace these changes with a meditative gaze, recognizing how slow, persistent movement reshapes the landscape over decades and centuries. Water becomes both witness and participant, a fluid mirror reflecting the ongoing stirrings of the solid earth below. You find yourself drawn to small vents and fissures where warmth escapes the ground. The faint heat against your skin reminds you that energy is never lost, only transformed. You imagine the molten rivers flowing far beneath, bending and folding under immense pressure, shaping minerals and rock formations in secret. Every vent is a quiet doorway to a larger, hidden activity, evidence that even beneath apparent calm, forces are at work with precision and persistence. These gentle reminders keep you aware that the Earth's vitality is both subtle and powerful, always shaping the world in ways that require attentive eyes and patient minds to perceive. Tiny tremors continue to ripple through the terrain. You feel them, notice their direction, their intensity, and the way they ripple outward. They are not disasters in waiting, but rather expressions of the planet's ongoing work. You sense the intricate balance between stress and release, between accumulation and relaxation. Every small quake is a note in a long symphony, harmonizing with other geological movements across time and space. These vibrations teach you a quiet lesson. The Earth operates on scales beyond human measurement, yet its language is accessible to those who slow down and listen. In this contemplative state, you understand that the signs of stirring are a form of gentle storytelling. Rocks shift, gases rise, rivers meander, and even the air seems to join the dialogue. Every subtle change carries information about the past, hints about potential futures, and reflections of forces operating invisibly beneath the surface. You realize that watching these signs is not about anticipating calamity, but about appreciating the intricate balance of energy and matter that sustains the living planet. The cycle of observation continues as evening falls. Shadows stretch across undulating landscapes, and the day's light softens. You feel the rhythm of Earth's subtle motions beneath your feet, harmonizing with your own breathing and heartbeat. Each stir in the crust, each venting of gas, each tiny shift of stone connects you to a history far larger than your own existence. You sense the continuity of forces, the patient shaping of land and life, the quiet dialogue that never ceases. And yet, even as you appreciate this slow dance, you know that the Earth holds more dramatic expressions of its energy. Eruptions that carve valleys, earthquakes that reshape regions, and molten flows that create new mountains. The gentle signs you have witnessed are precursors, the soft whispers that hint at events capable of magnificent transformation. You carry this awareness with calm reverence, understanding that patience and attention reveal the Earth's language more fully than fear or haste ever could. You begin at the base of a sleeping volcano, where the Earth's crust trembles softly beneath your feet. There is a quiet tension in the soil, an energy waiting to be released. You watch as the first clouds of ash rise, like a whisper of smoke stretching upward, curling and twisting into the pale sky. These are not just particles of rock and mineral. They are messengers, tiny travelers with the power to touch the world far beyond their birthplace. Each fragment seems almost alive as it dances in the turbulent currents, lifted higher and higher by the invisible arms of heat and wind. As the ash rises, you feel the slow unfolding of time around it. Gravity tugs at every particle, yet the hot air carries it upward in a gentle defiance. You imagine millions of these fragments swirling together, forming a cloud that glows faintly in the light of the sun, delicate yet immense. The particles are light, almost weightless individually, but together they hold the capacity to change the color of the sky, to scatter light and soften the sun's rays. You sense how even the smallest speck of matter can ripple outward, creating effects both subtle and profound. The cloud drifts across valleys and mountains, riding invisible rivers of air. You follow it as it stretches over forests, lakes, and fields. The ash does not discriminate. It moves wherever the atmosphere carries it, a traveler without destination. You notice how it interacts with moisture, clinging to droplets to form clouds that will someday release rain, carrying hints of the volcano's chemistry into distant lands. These droplets may nourish soil far away from the eruption, or they may darken skies, creating a soft twilight in the middle of the day. In this way, destruction and renewal coexist, bound by the quiet rules of physics and chemistry. Looking closer, you see that each particle is unique, some jagged and sharp, others fine and powdery. Each has a story written in its mineral composition, a record of the intense heat and pressure that created it deep within the Earth. You imagine these tiny fragments as archivists of the planet's inner workings, bearing secrets of molten rock and subterranean currents. When they meet the atmosphere, they become interpreters, translating the language of the Earth into signals that drift outward. Some reflect sunlight, some absorb it, subtly altering temperature patterns and the rhythm of clouds. You feel a sense of awe at this quiet communication between Earth and sky, a conversation that occurs without words but with tangible effects. As the ash spreads, it encounters jet streams and winds moving at speeds that are almost unimaginable. You watch the particles stretch into long, thin ribbons, some looping in spirals, others breaking apart into fine wisps. You sense the power of motion, of forces larger than you, shaping the course of millions of tiny travelers. Even in their smallness, these particles obey the universal rules. carried along paths dictated by pressure gradients and rotational forces. They remind you that the world is made of interconnected systems, each layer influencing another in ways both direct and subtle. The journey of a single particle is the story of countless interactions, a chain that links molten rock to rainfall, to cloud cover, to sunlight filtering through the atmosphere. You imagine what it must feel like to be inside one of these drifting specks. A particle rises into thinner air, bouncing on invisible currents. It spins slowly, bathed in sunlight, and glances off the edges of clouds, carrying with it traces of sulfur and silica. It drifts over distant cities and oceans, tracing invisible lines across the planet. You think about how long it might remain airborne, days, weeks, or even months, depending on size, density, and the whims of the atmosphere. During this time, it becomes part of a network of interactions, influencing weather patterns, scattering light into crimson sunsets, and sometimes cooling distant regions by reflecting sunlight. You sense the delicate balance of forces that allows life to thrive amid chaos, and how the tiniest component can influence the whole. The ash eventually begins its descent. Some particles fall quickly, returning to the ground near the volcano, while others linger in the upper atmosphere, settling slowly, almost imperceptibly, far from their origin. As they descend, they encounter living things, plants, animals, humans, each affected in ways both subtle and immediate. You think about how seeds might find richer soil, rivers might carry mineral-rich sediments, and skies might darken to remind all who watch that the planet is alive and responsive. You feel the interplay of destruction and nourishment, of endings that lead to beginnings. The atmosphere itself responds to this invasion of particles. Clouds form and dissolve, precipitation changes its rhythm, and the temperature of distant regions fluctuates ever so slightly. You watch as ash becomes a mediator of climate, a silent orchestrator of processes that would otherwise seem disconnected. It is both witness and participant, a reminder that even in the apparent stillness of air, life and matter are in constant dialogue. The wind carries the ash, but it is the ash that subtly alters the wind, creating ripples across the atmosphere. You feel the interconnectedness of Earth's systems as you breathe in the imagined dust, recognizing your own presence as part of this ongoing symphony. You consider the long-term journey of these particles. Some will land in oceans, altering the chemistry of water and the growth of microscopic organisms. Others will settle on glaciers, leaving traces that persist for centuries, recorded in ice cores as evidence of past eruptions. You imagine scientists in the distant future, examining these layers, decoding the story of ancient eruptions, of ash clouds that once drifted through skies far from their birthplace. You feel a sense of continuity, a bridge across time, as these tiny fragments connect past, present, and future. As night falls, the ash finally drifts from sight. You sense the lingering effects in the quiet cooling of the air, in the subtle shading of moonlight through thin clouds. The particles are now part of something larger than themselves, woven into cycles of weather, growth, and renewal. You feel a deep calm in recognizing that even events born from fiery chaos can contribute to balance and beauty, that destruction carries the seeds of creation in its wake. You pause, imagining the invisible threads that link mountain to sky, eruption to rainfall, ash to life. You realize that science is not just observation. It is a meditation, a gentle act of noticing the harmony and tension that exists all around you. Each fragment, each gust of wind, each cloud carries a story of forces interacting across vast distances. In the quiet of this reflection, you sense the patience of nature, the careful weaving of cause and effect, the gentle guidance of physical law. And as the last traces of ash settle beyond the horizon, leaving skies washed in a soft, muted glow, you feel a quiet connection to the larger patterns of the planet. You know that somewhere, unseen but real, the particles continue their journey, influencing seasons, nurturing life, and whispering the ongoing story of Earth's restless, radiant heart. And in this moment, suspended between what has fallen and what still drifts above, you sense the delicate, unending dance that links all things, reminding you that every ending is quietly intertwined with a beginning. The caldera opens before you like a sleeping eye, a vast depression holding history and potential. You step closer, feeling the gentle undulations of the land beneath your feet, the uneven textures shaped over countless centuries. Your gaze follows the rim, a jagged crown of rock softened by wind and rain, sculpted slowly into arcs and curves that whisper of unimaginable pressure and fire. This is a place where Earth itself pauses to breathe, where the remnants of molten rivers that once carved the terrain now sit in quiet repose. You notice how each shadow drifts across the slopes, shifting as the sun arcs overhead, revealing the subtle poetry of stone and soil. You imagine the first eruptions that birthed this vast bowl. Fire tore through rock, magma exploding in brilliant torrents of orange and red, only to settle into layers of hardened lava. Ash rained down, drifting gently across valleys, coating distant trees and rivers in fine dust. You picture the forces that pressed the ground from below, creating ridges, cliffs, and depressions, each a testament to the immense energy locked in Earth's interior. Even now, long after the fire has cooled, the land carries the memory of these cataclysmic events. Every rock, every curve seems to hum with the history of pressure, heat, and transformation. Walking along the rim, you pause to peer into the depths. The floor of the caldera is dotted with lakes, each a mirror reflecting the sky above. Some shimmer with startling clarity, while others are muted and opaque, colored by minerals leached from surrounding rock. You sense the gentle circulation of water, seeping through fractures, collecting in natural basins, slowly shaping the terrain. In their placid surfaces, you see echoes of the violent eruptions that formed them, like memory imprinted in stone and liquid. The lakes are quiet reminders that even in devastation, life finds space to persist. The cliffs that encircle the caldera are sculpted by eons of wind, rain, and temperature shifts. Tiny fissures split the rock, forming patterns that feel both random and intentional. You trace these lines with your mind, imagining the slow dance of gravity pulling fragments downward, rearranging the landscape imperceptibly. Mosses and lichens cling stubbornly to the vertical faces, stubborn marks of persistence amidst permanence. A few hardy trees crown the edges, their roots reaching deep into cracks, anchoring themselves in the solid history of stone. You recognize a rhythm here, one that blends destruction and renewal, reminding you that time is patient and persistent. Your attention drifts to the soil and sediment along the slopes. Layers upon layers tell a story written in minerals, ash, and eroded rock. You notice subtle color changes, from deep ochre to muted gray, each layer a chapter in Earth's long narrative. Fossils and fragments of ancient plants hint at life that existed long before your arrival. You imagine the caldera as a silent archive, storing the work of fire, water, and pressure across millennia. Every handful of Earth seems imbued with a quiet reverence, a reminder of forces that shaped the planet long before human memory began. As you explore, small signs of life begin to emerge in the most unexpected places. Delicate grasses sprout from cracks in rocks. Wildflowers lift toward the sunlight, ephemeral but persistent. Insects hum quietly across the surface of shallow pools, and birds swoop gracefully along the caldera's edges. You sense a subtle interplay between stillness and activity. The land holds memory, the living world moves forward. The calm of the caldera does not mean absence. It means coexistence, a gentle balance between what has passed and what continues. Your mind wanders to the geology beneath your feet. The magma chamber that once fueled eruptions now rests deep beneath the caldera floor, solidifying slowly or perhaps remaining partially molten. You imagine the heat that once surged upward, melting rock and driving violent expansion, shaping valleys and ridges with unstoppable power. Today, those same forces are quiet, almost meditative, pressing upward beneath layers of cooled stone. Even in apparent stillness, the Earth remains alive, its potential for transformation quietly present, a patient reminder of nature's enduring capacity for change. You follow a narrow path along the caldera's inner rim, feeling the gentle sway of wind against your skin. The air carries subtle scents of damp soil and minerals, a fragrant whisper of the processes that unfolded here over eons. You pause to touch the stone, imagining the pressure and heat that once molded it into its present form. Every ridge and hollow seems to tell a story, of fire contained, of energy released, of time stretching in slow, unimaginable measures. You recognize that the landscape itself is a meditation, an invitation to witness the artistry of geological forces at work. The lakes at the bottom glisten like eyes, reflecting clouds that drift lazily across the sky. You wonder how many storms and seasons have passed above them, how many winds have sculpted the rim, how many quiet nights have been spent under the same stars. You feel the vastness of time here, a comforting sense of scale that allows you to release your own worries into the enormity of the world. The caldera is both ancient and present, holding memory and possibility in equal measure. Its beauty is not flamboyant. It is subtle, deliberate, and profound. As the sun begins to dip, shadows lengthen across the slopes. The caldera transforms into a landscape of muted colors, where cliffs glow softly and lakes mirror the amber sky. You take a final moment to breathe in the quiet, to sense the slow pulse of the land beneath your feet. Every curve, every depression, every still lake feels alive with history, yet serene, offering you a sense of connection to processes far greater than your own. The land encourages patience, reflection, and awe, a gentle reminder that even the most violent forces can create spaces of calm and beauty. Your footsteps begin to carry you along the rim once more, your eyes tracing the lines of rock and water, imagining the immense energies that shaped them. You realize the caldera is not simply a scar of past eruptions, but a space of continuity, where memory and potential coexist. You feel the quiet resonance of Earth's creative power, as if the planet itself whispers secrets meant only for those willing to pause and notice. And as the evening settles, your mind drifts along the curves and cliffs, carrying with it the promise of the next journey, a sense of wonder that will unfold in the landscapes still waiting to be explored. Magma chambers hum with energy, their presence hidden beneath the surface, yet profoundly alive. You imagine vast reservoirs of molten rock, glowing dimly in the darkness beneath mountains and valleys. The heat rises slowly, almost imperceptibly, through layers of stone that have held it for millennia. You do not see this warmth directly, but you feel it in your imagination, a subtle pulse that threads through the planet's crust like a heartbeat. Each movement of magma is measured in centuries, each shift deliberate, yet it hums with quiet vitality. As you walk across the landscape above, the ground beneath seems ordinary, yet it is alive with the hidden flow of energy. You picture the thermal currents, invisible rivers of heat coursing upward, gently warming the rocks above. Science maps this heat, translating it into data, but when you imagine it as sensation, it becomes poetry. Geologists use infrared images, thermometers, and satellite measurements to trace these slow currents. Yet your mind feels the warmth as a gentle rhythm beneath your feet. Each pulse is a reminder that Earth is not inert, but a living, breathing entity with deep inner life. You close your eyes and allow yourself to sense the temperature changes. Slowly, very slowly, the heat rises from a depth you cannot reach, softening the stone around it. It travels through layers of granite, basalt, and sediment, leaving tiny whispers of warmth in its path. It is a quiet energy, patient and unhurried, unlike the rush of wind or the force of a waterfall. You imagine yourself as a single molecule of rock, absorbing this heat, feeling it expand and contract your being with a deliberate rhythm. The sensation is almost spiritual, connecting you to forces far larger than your own body. Thermal maps become meditative landscapes. You visualize colors shifting from deep purples in cooler regions to glowing reds and oranges where magma presses closest to the surface. Patterns emerge, like veins of a great organism, carrying energy slowly yet persistently. Your mind traces each contour, noting how temperatures vary over kilometers, over hundreds of meters of solid rock. These maps, when read with imagination, reveal stories of pressure, density, and the slow convection currents moving within the Earth. You feel as if you are floating above, peering down at a living grid, a delicate balance maintained for eons. The science itself becomes a rhythm you can sense. You learn that magma does not simply sit stagnant. It circulates, convects, and migrates through complex networks of chambers and dikes. Mineral content changes as rock melts and cools, creating pockets of density that guide the flow of heat. You imagine these pockets as tiny hearts, beating softly within the vast body of Earth, each sending its warmth outward, joining the grand pulse of heat that defines the planet's core activity. Even as the temperatures rise or fall slightly, there is a continuity, a quiet constancy that stretches across geological time. Imagine now the layers above: soil, sediment, and stone. Each absorbs some heat and passes the rest upward. You might feel this as a barely noticeable warmth when resting your hand on the ground, or in the way the air above slowly adjusts to subtle changes in temperature. Your senses, guided by imagination, become attuned to this slow pulse. You might think of it as Earth breathing, inhaling coolness from the surface, exhaling warmth from the depths. A cycle too long for ordinary perception but entirely present for those who pause to imagine. Volcanic regions illustrate this pulse most clearly. Hot springs, geysers, and fumaroles are small windows into the immense energy hidden below. You picture the water bubbling gently, steam rising in a quiet dance, carrying the planet's warmth skyward. Even without seeing molten rock directly, you feel the connection to the deeper magma chambers, the pulse transmitted upward through the crust and into the environment. Your awareness of these thermal signatures is like a soft meditation, teaching patience and the understanding that energy can move without hurry, that change can be steady and invisible. Your mind wanders into geological time. The magma beneath the surface is ancient, older than any city, older than any forest. Yet it remains active, a reservoir of potential and transformation. This warmth has shaped continents, carved valleys, and pushed mountains skyward. You feel awe at its persistence and subtle power. There is no rush here, only a steady insistence, a heartbeat of heat that continues whether anyone notices or not. Each pulse carries knowledge of pressure, density, chemical change, and the grand cycles that govern our planet. Thermal energy also reminds you of balance. Too much and the crust above might fracture, creating eruptions. Too little and tectonic movement would slow, and the planet would cool over millions of years. You reflect on how finely tuned this system is, how the slow rise of heat supports life and shapes landscapes without notice. This knowledge becomes comforting, almost like listening to a lullaby of deep time, the quiet rhythm of energy flowing in perfect patience. You feel connected to Earth's natural equilibrium, a participant in a process larger than any individual existence. Meditating on magma chambers also brings attention to scale. You imagine kilometers of rock glowing softly, sheets of heat rising invisibly toward the surface. You sense the vertical and horizontal flow, and the subtle variations caused by different mineral compositions. Heat may travel faster through some rocks than others, creating gentle eddies and currents, a network of energy that is as complex as it is slow. The pulse you sense is not uniform. It has nuance, texture, and a soft unpredictability, reminding you of the organic nature of geological processes. As you explore this sensation further, you realize that observing the pulse of heat is also a reflection on impermanence and patience. The Earth's processes unfold over spans far longer than human life, yet they are accessible to imagination. You allow yourself to feel small within this vast system, yet intimately connected. Each beat of heat, each gentle shift of magma, becomes a bridge between understanding and feeling, between observation and meditation. You are part of this pulse, breathing with the planet in a rhythm too slow for clocks but entirely present in the mind's quiet attention. Finally, you return to the present. You feel the pulse beneath your feet, soft and constant, a reminder of Earth's living core. Science has given you the tools to measure, map, and understand, but it is imagination that transforms these numbers into sensations. You carry warmth upward in your awareness, letting it radiate through your thoughts, a meditation on patience, persistence, and quiet energy. Even as you prepare to leave this mental landscape, the pulse continues, imperceptible but unwavering, like a heartbeat of the world itself. The warmth lingers as a gentle hum in your mind, a quiet reminder that beneath every calm surface, energy waits patiently, shaping the planet in ways both subtle and profound. You sense its continuity, the invisible thread of heat connecting rocks, water, and life across time. Even as you close your eyes for rest, the pulse remains, inviting reflection, wonder, and the gentle understanding that Earth itself is alive, always moving, always breathing, slowly, patiently, toward the surface and into your imagination. And as the warmth fades softly from your awareness, your mind drifts toward the surface above, toward the landscapes shaped by this hidden pulse, and toward the next journey, the delicate whisper of Earth's shifting crust, hinting at forces that stretch and bend the world with quiet persistence. You close your eyes and let your mind drift backward through time, through layers of soil and rock, to a world shaped by forces beyond human comprehension. Beneath your feet, the Earth's memory hums, a subtle vibration echoing from ancient chambers of molten rock. You imagine these giant eruptions as slow, patient beings, storing energy for centuries until the day they awaken. There is no fear here, only a profound curiosity about the rhythms and patterns of life written in stone and ash. You see the first giant awakening. Magma swells beneath a vast caldera, hidden under forests and plains that do not yet know the weight of what is coming. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the land begins to change. The forests sway as if sensing the shift, their roots digging deeper, their leaves whispering to the wind. You watch animals pause, instinctively responding to tremors no larger than a heartbeat. The eruption itself is not sudden in this perception but a crescendo that gathers momentum like a long, drawn-out exhale. When the surface finally bursts, ash clouds rise in soft, billowing waves. You trace their journey across continents, carried by winds that shape weather and climate. The gray veil drifts over rivers, mountains, and plains, settling into patterns that will persist for centuries. You notice extinct forests beneath the layers, their skeletal branches fossilized, preserved like a memory pressed between pages of the Earth's book. There is stillness here, a pause in the world that is both beautiful and humbling. Time folds as you move from eruption to eruption, each leaving a distinct imprint on the landscape. You witness rivers redirected, valleys deepened, and plains reshaped. Mountains rise and crumble under the patient hand of pressure and heat. You sense the Earth as a living entity, immense and patient, capable of remaking itself in ways both destructive and creative. It is in this understanding that you find a quiet comfort. Life is resilient, even in the face of overwhelming forces. You wander among layers of ash, observing the subtle changes they induce in the soil. Minerals released from deep within the earth enrich the land, preparing it for new life. You see the first shoots of plants pushing through the gray blanket, fragile yet determined. Birds return to forests that were once barren, their songs blending with the whisper of wind across cooled lava. The world regenerates itself slowly, a rhythm you feel in your own chest, matching the steady pulse of the planet. History, you realize, is written not just in human records but in the land itself. You imagine early humans stepping cautiously through these transformed landscapes, myths forming in their minds to explain what they cannot yet fully understand. Legends of fire, judgment, and rebirth echo the scientific truths you now perceive. The earth teaches without words, and every ash layer, every fossilized leaf, and every altered riverbed is a page in its quiet narrative. You reflect on the delicate interplay between destruction and creation. An eruption may flatten forests and alter climates, yet it also sows the seeds for new ecosystems. Extinct species give way to those that adapt, survive, and flourish. Life is not defeated but redirected, flowing around obstacles and finding new paths. You sense that resilience is woven into the very fabric of the world, a lesson mirrored in the cycles of your own life, small yet significant within the vastness of time. As you move forward, the climate changes gently before your eyes. You see summers cooled by volcanic aerosols, winters lengthened, and skies painted with muted hues as sunlight filters through fine ash. Atmospheric shifts ripple across the globe, influencing patterns of rainfall, growth, and decay. You understand that even invisible particles carry power, a reminder that the world is interconnected in ways both subtle and profound. Your mind wanders through these quiet interactions, noting the dance of cause and effect that shapes all life. You linger over fossilized forests, tracing the shapes of leaves and trunks that once reached for sunlight. You imagine the creatures that moved among them, now preserved only in memory and mineral. There is beauty in this permanence, a record of resilience even in loss. Life continues elsewhere, shaped by the legacies of these giant events. You recognize a pattern. Transformation is inevitable, yet it carries with it the seeds of renewal. The earth teaches patience, endurance, and adaptation, lessons written in stone and whispered through the wind. In this journey, you encounter human perspectives gently layered atop natural history. Civilizations arise, flourish, and fade, influenced subtly by the echoes of eruptions long past. Humans learn, adapt, and create, inspired by landscapes that are simultaneously destructive and fertile. You feel an intimate connection to both the planet and its inhabitants, observing that curiosity, observation, and respect are ways to participate in the ongoing story. There is a humbling comfort in recognizing your place within these larger cycles. You notice the quiet influence of volcanic minerals on rivers, soils, and forests. Life responds with patience and ingenuity. New species emerge, watercourses settle into balanced patterns, and ecosystems stabilize over centuries. The Earth's memory is not merely a record of catastrophe but a guide to resilience, showing how life persists, adapts, and thrives even after immense change. You feel gratitude for this subtle education, an awareness that strength is measured not only by survival but by the capacity to evolve. Time slows further as you observe the final giants in your vision. You walk along mountains shaped by repeated eruptions, tracing valleys and plains that bear the fingerprints of ancient heat. Each layer of rock, ash, and soil speaks of cycles both immense and intimate. You sense a continuity that links the distant past to the present, a quiet rhythm echoing in your own breath. The lessons of resilience, transformation, and the Earth's enduring creativity settle softly in your mind, leaving you with a sense of awe and calm. And now, as the echoes of these giants fade into quiet memory, you feel the gentle pull of curiosity toward what lies beneath. The molten rivers, hidden chambers, and energy that still slumber. The story is not finished. It continues beneath your feet, waiting for the next step of awareness. You step quietly into the world beneath the mountains, where the supervolcano lies in patient slumber. Its vast chambers of molten rock shift slowly, almost imperceptibly, but not without subtle signs. Tiny tremors ripple through the crust, delicate pulses that only the most sensitive instruments can detect. You imagine each vibration as a whisper, the Earth communicating in a language older than humans, a language of patience, heat, and quiet pressure. Satellites orbit high above, like silent sentinels, scanning the planet's surface with meticulous precision. They measure the rising and falling of ground levels, track changes in gas emissions, and observe minute thermal shifts across volcanic landscapes. You follow the scientists as they receive this data, interpreting it with calm expertise. Numbers and graphs become stories, charts become poems, narratives of attention that reveal the hidden heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Seismometers buried deep in the soil detect tremors too subtle for the human ear. You visualize them as tiny sensors listening, feeling the Earth's faint rhythms. Each signal is a message, a soft rattle of shifting rock, the slow expansion of magma pushing against its rocky walls. Scientists translate these movements into understanding, knowing that even a small anomaly could signify the beginning of a chain of events. Yet their work is gentle, deliberate, never hurried, a meditation on patience and vigilance. You sense the harmony in this observation. Modern technology does not dominate. It listens. Satellites and ground instruments do not disturb the Earth's slumber. They respect it. Their presence is a quiet acknowledgement that power and wonder can coexist with care. Through their lens, the supervolcano becomes less mysterious, yet somehow more alive, more intricate. Every tremor, every puff of gas, every subtle shift of heat adds a brushstroke to an enormous, unfolding painting. Gases escape slowly from fissures, tiny plumes of carbon dioxide and sulfur that rise like smoke from a quiet hearth. Scientists measure the composition and flow, noting variations that could hint at movements deep below. You imagine yourself tracing these invisible trails, feeling the coolness of air and the faint warmth of hidden magma as it interacts with the crust. Each observation is a translation of whispers, turning invisible motions into knowledge that feels both intimate and profound. You feel your attention expand, matching the scope of the supervolcano. You understand that monitoring is not merely technical. It is a form of reverence. The Earth is immense, ancient, and powerful, and to watch without haste, to listen without interruption, is an act of respect. Data points become letters in a gentle correspondence, a story unfolding over hours, days, months, and even decades. You recognize the human patience required, the quiet persistence of those who dedicate themselves to understanding forces far beyond their control. Thermal imaging reveals subtle variations across the landscape. Hot spots appear like delicate brushstrokes, revealing the slow ascent of heat through the crust. You follow these movements as though reading a slowly turning page, each frame revealing a chapter of the planet's quiet energy. It is a rhythm that is almost musical, the cadence of pressure and warmth echoing beneath the mountains. You feel the pulse beneath your feet, steady yet alive, ancient yet attentive to human observation. Your imagination drifts to the control rooms, where scientists watch streams of data on glowing screens. You see them noting each anomaly with gentle focus, making careful comparisons with past records, discussing possibilities in calm voices. Their work is meticulous but not anxious. They embrace uncertainty with respect rather than fear. You feel their calm translate to your own mind, soothing any unease and replacing it with admiration and curiosity. Even the night sky participates in this observation. Satellites measure the faint glow of the Earth's surface from above, detecting minuscule heat differences invisible to the naked eye. You imagine these instruments gliding silently over valleys and calderas, capturing patterns of movement with unerring precision. Every measurement reinforces a narrative of connection, showing how humans, with patience and ingenuity, can attune themselves to planetary rhythms without disturbing them. The beauty of vigilance lies in its quiet repetition. Each day, instruments record, scientists analyze, and the Earth continues its slow, deliberate motions. You feel the reassurance that comes from careful attention, that knowledge need not come from dramatic eruptions or visible upheaval, but from the subtle, continuous whispers of a patient planet. Watching and listening becomes a form of meditation, a reminder that understanding does not require force, but care, focus, and time. As you lie back in this imagined landscape, you sense a gentle dialogue. The Earth offers its tiny tremors and gas plumes. Science receives them, interprets them, and returns them as comprehension. You feel your own heartbeat syncing with this rhythm, a shared pulse of attention and wonder. There is no hurry, no panic, only the slow unfolding of understanding, the quiet joy of discovery, the soft music of careful observation. In these moments, the supervolcano seems less like a threat and more like a patient companion. You realize that monitoring is not merely a defensive act, but a celebration of curiosity and respect. Instruments translate motion into knowledge, knowledge into stories, and stories into calm wonder. You feel both small and connected, human consciousness reaching out gently to embrace the vast, slumbering force beneath your feet. And as your awareness softens, the last tremors fade into silence. You carry with you the reassurance that the Earth's heartbeat continues, steady and alive, and that those who watch and listen allow its quiet wonders to be known. The planet whispers, and you have learned to hear. You begin by closing your eyes and imagining the giant beneath the Earth. Its chambers, long silent, hum softly with potential. Like a distant drumbeat you can feel more than hear. The thought is not frightening. It is a gentle reminder that the planet is alive, breathing beneath your feet, patient in its own rhythm. You picture the layers of rock above, a lid holding warmth and pressure, the slow accumulation of forces measured not in hours but in centuries. In this quiet imagining, curiosity and calm coexist. The giant stirs, and you let your mind wander along its possibilities. You see molten rivers tracing their paths through the hidden veins of Earth. They glow faintly, a warm amber against the deep darkness of subterranean caverns. You follow the flow with soft attention, noticing how it moves not as chaos but as a measured, rhythmic pulse. Every twist and turn is like the gentle stroke of a painter's brush, shaping landscapes in slow motion. In this moment, your breath mirrors the flow, in and out, matching the heartbeat of the sleeping giant. The surface above responds in ways you can almost feel. Hills and valleys adjust subtly, the land folding and stretching as if in a slow, unconscious dance. You imagine rivers rerouting, forming new curves and reflections under the sky. Ash begins to rise, tiny particles drifting upward, catching sunlight and painting halos around the clouds. The air fills with quiet change, yet it is not threatening. It is a transformation, a reminder of nature's ability to adapt. You notice patterns in the drifting ash, delicate swirls and trails, like calligraphy written by invisible hands. Each wisp tells a story of energy released and rebalanced. From your safe vantage, you see forests shifting, trees bending in response to unseen currents. You imagine the resilience of life. Small mammals burrowing, birds rising above, seeds carried by wind to find new soil. Life does not vanish. It adjusts, sometimes in astonishing ways. You pause to reflect on how ecosystems absorb and respond to great forces, how destruction and renewal are intertwined. In this gentle imagining, nothing is permanent in a fixed way, yet everything continues. You feel a soft sense of continuity, a reassurance that even dramatic change is part of a larger, enduring harmony. The sky darkens in your mind's eye, clouds thickening with the drifting ash. Yet light breaks through in scattered beams, creating moments of quiet brilliance. You notice the interplay of shadow and illumination, and how even in upheaval there is beauty. Lava flows carve slow channels down mountainsides, glowing softly in reds and oranges, as if the earth is breathing color into its own surface. You follow these movements not with fear but with appreciation, observing the artistry of natural forces. It is a meditation on impermanence and the cycles of energy that sculpt the world. You consider the science behind the spectacle. Pressure, temperature, chemical composition, all interacting in ways that have been measured, observed, and understood. The giant is not unknowable. It is interpretable, predictable in patterns that human minds can trace. Instruments translate tremors into numbers, gas emissions into readings, and the flow of magma into mapped pathways. You realize that the imagination you exercise is mirrored by the tools of science. Both explore the unseen, both tell stories about processes larger than ourselves. The boundary between imagination and understanding blurs, each enriching the other. Ash begins to settle, softening the edges of valleys and plains. You see how landscapes are subtly transformed. Lakes tinted by minerals, rocks smoothed by heat, meadows sprinkled with fresh sediment. These changes are slow on the human scale, yet immediate in the mind's eye. You walk along these imagined pathways, noting the new textures underfoot, feeling the quiet energy beneath your steps. You are present in the aftermath before it has fully arrived, a witness to transformation in suspended time. In your mind, life continues to adapt. Forests regenerate along new soil layers, streams find fresh channels, and animals adjust their patterns. You watch the interplay of destruction and renewal as a soft, contemplative rhythm. Nothing is abrupt here. The giant's activity is a gentle unfolding when observed through patience and attention. Even the darkest ash clouds carry a sense of possibility, a reminder that every end contains seeds for beginning. You sense the Earth's resilience, a quiet pulse that continues regardless of the drama above. You notice patterns in the molten rock and ash deposits, intricate designs that seem intentional, though born of physics alone. They remind you of abstract art, brushstrokes across a canvas of soil and stone. In your imagination, you trace the flows and eddies, following the lines as a meditation. Science has names for these patterns: lava tubes, pyroclastic deposits, ash layers, but the wonder remains the same. Knowledge deepens your awe rather than diminishes it, giving you a richer palette with which to observe the world. You step back and view the whole scene. Mountains and valleys, forests and rivers, ash clouds and glowing lava, all part of a vast, interwoven system. You see how life persists, how energy moves, and how balance is continually restored. There is no hurry, no panic, only the patient unfolding of processes on a grand scale. In this quiet, reflective space, you feel aligned with the rhythm of the earth, a participant in its slow choreography. Your thoughts turn to the future. What might remain centuries from now? You imagine the landscapes reshaped, perhaps unrecognizable to anyone who knew them before, yet thriving in new ways. Life will continue, adapting with ingenuity that mirrors your own imaginative journey. You realize that the giant's awakening, though powerful, is part of a story that includes persistence, resilience, and beauty. Science and imagination meet here, teaching you to see without fear, to wonder without urgency, and to rest in understanding. Finally, you allow your mind to drift beyond the eruption, beyond the shifting mountains and rivers. You linger on the quiet spaces between events, the soft pauses that contain meaning without movement. You feel the calm beneath the potential energy, the stillness within transformation. The giant sleeps again, perhaps for centuries, and you carry the lesson of resilience and beauty within you. In this reflective awareness, you sense the threads that connect this chapter to the next, where observation, measurement, and gentle vigilance will guide your journey into understanding Earth's pulse. Last lines. The world reshapes, yet life endures. In the quiet aftermath, you feel the Earth's subtle heartbeat guiding you toward the next discovery, where attention and care meet the planet's patient wisdom. The giant beneath your feet settles again into its patient slumber, its energy dispersing slowly through hidden chambers and molten veins. You sense the weight of time itself, measured not in hours or days, but in the patient pulse of the earth. Each rock, each crevice, each faint tremor speaks a language older than humanity, a reminder that life and land are entwined in rhythms far beyond your daily perception. The world above might feel calm and ordinary, yet beneath, the earth has been humming an ancient song, one you now carry quietly in your mind. You walk along the ridges of memory, tracing the paths where fire once flowed and ash once fell. The landscapes you've imagined throughout this journey are no longer just ideas. They live in your imagination with textures and scents. The metallic tang of fresh magma, the crisp scent of rain on cooled lava, the soft whisper of wind over a caldera lake. Science has become a meditation, a lens through which you perceive not just facts, but feelings, rhythms, and hidden connections. You realize the earth is not just a collection of materials, but a storyteller, speaking in heat, pressure, and slow, steady movement. Water flows differently now in your mind, shaped by valleys and depressions carved over millennia by eruptions both violent and gentle. Streams trace serpentine paths through ash and soil, carrying nutrients and shaping life in ways both subtle and profound. You imagine rain falling softly, soaking into the cooled crust, cooling it further, refreshing it, allowing it to breathe. The interplay of fire and water becomes a slow dance, one that balances destruction with creation, tension with calm. Even in the quiet aftermath, you sense the dynamism. The earth is never truly still. You pause at the edge of a caldera, looking into its bowl-like depths. Shadows cling to the rocks, long and gentle, and you notice the faint shimmer of mineral deposits that trace the memory of heat. Each layer tells a story, a flash of molten fury, a pause of quiet cooling, a slow settling of debris. Through these layers, the planet's history is etched with clarity, and you recognize your own place as a witness, a visitor able to translate the immense into the intimate. You feel gratitude for this perspective, and a calm reverence for forces that are both terrifying and beautiful. Breathing slowly, you consider the cycles of life mirrored in these geological patterns. Just as magma rises, cools, and reshapes, so too does life undergo cycles of growth, transformation, and renewal. You notice parallels between the Earth's slow heartbeat and your own, a reminder that you, too, are part of a grander rhythm. The tension of past eruptions fades, replaced by a sense of patient continuity. You realize that endings are never absolute. They are merely pauses before the next movement, a breath before the next wave of creation. Your mind drifts through the echoes of eruptions you've imagined, each one a teacher. They remind you of the power of patience. Immense forces at work, yet slow, deliberate, and measured. You feel the hum of thermal energy beneath the surface, a pulse that is steady and enduring, like a quiet drum marking the passage of eons. This pulse becomes a gentle metronome for your thoughts, encouraging reflection, slowing the pace of your breathing, and allowing a sense of timelessness to settle over you. The landscapes of your imagination begin to soften, edges melting into gentle gradients of light and shadow. You imagine vegetation slowly reclaiming cooled lava flows, delicate moss spreading over rough stone, tiny seedlings pushing through ash. Life asserts itself with subtle persistence, never in a rush, always finding balance with the underlying heat that both threatens and sustains it. You recognize the lessons in this duality, that strength and fragility coexist, that risk and resilience are inseparable, that creation often follows destruction. You wander through these mental landscapes, moving from ridge to caldera, lake to lava plain, sensing the interplay of elements that sustain the planet. Air moves lightly across your skin, carrying the faint scent of minerals and water, as if the earth itself exhales. The rhythmic murmur of distant streams and the soft, almost imperceptible rumble from deep below become a lullaby, a steadying presence that draws your thoughts inward. You feel a profound connection to the cycles you've observed, a sense that observing is a form of care, a way of participating in the quiet harmony of the planet. As night falls in your mind's eye, you notice the stars reflected in a caldera lake, pinpoints of light mirrored in still waters. The sky and earth converse in silence, a dialogue of reflection and illumination. You think of the immense patience required for this reflection, the slow settling of heat and energy, the gentle erosion of stone into soil. These cycles remind you that time, whether geological or personal, moves with deliberate rhythm, shaping worlds and minds alike. You feel your own mind becoming a quiet mirror, reflecting the calm persistence of the natural world. The giant slumber is complete, yet the earth is far from inert. You sense the faint stirrings of subterranean currents, the subtle shifts that promise eventual renewal. Life continues, quietly persistent, while energy settles into deep reservoirs, waiting for the next awakening. You consider the lessons of these dormant giants, that power can be contained, that patience is an active force, and that understanding comes not from haste, but from careful observation and gentle curiosity. The earth invites you to rest, to integrate these lessons, to carry the calm forward. Your attention lingers on the idea of reflection, not just the mirrored waters, but the internal reflection you've practiced throughout this journey. You feel a gentle gratitude for the opportunity to witness the planet's rhythms, to translate immense geological processes into intimate awareness. You recognize the delicate balance between knowledge and wonder, between science and reverence, and allow yourself to simply be present. Each insight becomes a whisper, each observation a soft vibration in your awareness, blending seamlessly into your consciousness. Finally, as your mind drifts toward the quiet of sleep, you feel a sense of renewal. The giant beneath the surface is at rest, the cycles of energy balanced once more. You carry within you the hum of the earth's heartbeat, a soothing, constant rhythm that promises continuity and care. The lessons of fire and water, of destruction and creation, settle gently into your consciousness. And as you exhale slowly, the boundaries between self and planet soften, leaving only the calm, endless presence of the earth beneath your feet.